To quote Puck, Berserk.
I think I know how to begin this. Ready?
Okay.
Come for the shadows in these golden
Golden
years.
years. Golden years.
Ooh. Can we just say that that is the most underrated Bowie song? The fact that that's not everybody's go-to Bowie song is crazy. Ooh, what's up, people?
Hello, squishies. This is a content warning. We're going to be talking about mature and difficult subject matter. If you don't feel like this is for you, please look away. Go to something happier. May I suggest sparkles, ponies, kittens, and puppies? Okay, so remember last time when I was saying that we immediately knew that this is a person who had been very, very essayed?
That is a thing that you said.
I was like, anytime somebody touches him gently, he has a freak out, da 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 da. Well, congratulations, me. He was definitely essayed, and we have to see it. That was terrible.
I genuinely feel like there are no words that are Twitch legal that can accurately describe what happened.
He was sold for 3 silver pieces.
Later, we see the only reference I have for the economy is killing a big guy with an axe is worth 7 gold.
Can I help make this section a little better, though?
Yeah.
Because we decided that we were going to do the happy Berserk.
We're doing Happy Berserk.
So it's pretty hard in this section, let's be honest. First of all, he fights like a wildcat. He fights like a absolute wildcat against a guy who looks very similar to the guy he meets later on. He's got that big old ugly face again and head.
This dude loves big ugly face guy.
It feels like they're all related, if I'm going to be honest here. He fights like a wild. He even says he fights like a wildcat. Oh shit! I got it from the actual manga. I did not know that.
You're so good at referencing the material.
Yeah. So something that I was noticing, it was amazing that this person, while he's essaying him, also wanted to crush his soul because he thought he was fighting too hard. So he said that you're wriggling all over the place and I paid good money to you. As if paying good money for someone actually gives up your agency over your own body, by the way.
Yeah, that's actually really meaningful.
Very meaningful. And then there's the image where he is over top of him and we see him just before he's about to essay him. He says, "No, that's a lie." And when you look at them, you'll notice that it's on a dark background, and then coming out of them, the only light there is looks exactly like the roots of a tree. And so it feels like we are looking, if this was the Disney movie about emotions, that this would be a memory that would be staying for all time, that this memory is rooting itself into Guts Berserk, and it's who he is becoming. This is helping. What?
Okay, but I need to make something so clear.
What?
How inherently funny the idea of Pixar's Inside Out Berserk is. Like imagining little inside out emotions going through Mr. Guts Berserk's life is the inherently funniest concept.
It actually is. I don't think Pixar would like it. I don't think Pixar would be like, yes, please use Berserk. And so there is roots coming out of this so that we're watching this take root in his personality, and this is helping to form who he's going to become. But the other thing that I thought was really interesting in it, it's like in all of these scenes, when you see him, he looks kind of like Puck. That in the drawings that we get of Mr. Guts Berserk in the future, he is done more like the person who essays him. He's got shadowing and shading and darkness in him. But in these ones, he looks like Puck. It's only outlining and then his face. And then that's even done deeper when you turn the page and that man is leaving and you see him laying on a white blanket and his knees are bent up and his arms are outstretched. And the piece of scarf that was used to tie his mouth shut behind him looks like wings, and he looks just like Puck laying on the blanket in the center of the scene. And so it made me feel more like we're making a comparison with Puck in this piece, and Puck being the unblemished version, and this was showing us in his innocence when he was this young boy who was taken advantage of, who was broken, who was hurt, and then here he is laying there looking for all the world like Puck with these tiny little wings behind him, and then it goes into his numbed face. But you know what was amazing? You change the page and it goes from him laying there to him picking up a sword, wrapping a sheet around his body, and coming out ready to hurt and kill. And the reason that I thought this was really amazing is for a lot of people, when they are essayed, it becomes the thing that others define them by, and it becomes the thing that they define themselves by. And instead of seeing themselves yourself as being a victim of something or of having this thing happen to you, it becomes their personality. It becomes a cast that hangs over their body. And I had somebody who has been assaulted who once said, if you were in a car accident and you lost your leg, you wouldn't define yourself as a car accident victim for the rest of your life. That would be a thing that happened to you, not a thing that made you who you were.
Mm-hmm.
And so to watch him in just 2 pages go from laying there with this little tiny wings behind his back, completely broken, to standing up, wrapping a sheet around his body and grabbing a sword, made me be like, you know what, Guts, you are going to come out the other end of this, because you don't see yourself as being that moment. You see yourself as somebody who has had that moment happen to them. So that's a little happy.
That's a little happy. You got some endurance, the strength of survival and will. And yeah, no, I'll take it back. Gambino wasn't trying his best. I mean,
Was he trying his best to suck?
yeah, he's a bastard.
I think that this, for me, made me so happy because I watched him get attacked. I watched this moment root in him. Yes, it's going to change him. It's going to change the way he sees the world, but he's not going to define himself as being an SA victim. It was really, really hard to watch him come out when you know now that Gambino knows what happened.
And just pretend.
And he just pretends. He's like, what do you want? Yeah. He goes, Gambino? Yeah. And just looks at him. And he's standing there with a sword and this blanket wrapped around him. And you know Gambino knows. And his inability to question the man that he sees as being father adjacent and watching that was such a hard moment. He gets essayed by a person. He has to go in battle with that person. They're fighting. That guy is like, I'm so strong and huge with a giant head. And everything is going great for him. And then all of a sudden, an arrow sprouts out just beside his heart in his chest. And he turns around to be like, oh my God, what enemy got the jump on me? Oh, no, sir. That would be Mr. Guts Berserk. And what did he just do?
Yep.
Shot a crossbow into you, piece of shit. And then you're like, oh my God, already the joy I'm feeling about this is overly joy. And then, nope, he jumps off his horse, sticks his sword through his mouth, and I stopped reading. I put down the manga. I stood up and gave him a round of applause. I figured he needed a standing ovation for that, so I took a pause to give him one.
This also, I want to take a moment here to talk about how, like, Guts is shown to be an exceptional young person when it comes to how strong he is. However, it doesn't feel like it breaks the gritty realism that we're going for. Now, obviously not realism in terms of realistic capability, because Guts' sword is impossible for a human to wield. However, it doesn't feel like he is, as a kid, already better than everyone. Like, he is struggling against the best knights. He is taking risks when he's fighting the best dudes.
He was overtaken by that man.
He was overtaken by that dude and had to use a crossbow to get the jump on him and kill him. Like,
oh, you have to delete your art, apparently? Yeah, you have to delete your art.
Interesting. I guess I'm going to be doing this a bit differently.
The background, everything in the background?
No. We're
keeping... the face? Okay. Yeah, I would agree with you. But it didn't, I also felt like it didn't break the story at all. I don't know how many happy things there are going to be, and I don't know what people say about Berserk. They're calling it like dark all the time. I think this Salter. When I read this, I was thinking like I would like to clock these pages, and then if I'm having a bad day, I would just like to look at this little revenge scene that they gave to us immediately. Like, winner, chicken dinner. It's not every day that a victim gets to be like, oh, excuse me, well, you. It's incredible. And then when you go, say it again. Who sold me out? Say it. And he doesn't. I dare you to say it. I was like, I don't even care at this point. Just continue to kill him. It's so glorious. If you want to do 2 more pages of killing him, bring that happy juice on.
Look, I was really, really glad for the vengeance we got. I like how it happened. Yeah, it is low-key a comfort story. There is immediately something very appealing that Guts has been given the worst life possible, and we see him able to keep standing, keep fighting, keep living. Like, he hasn't given up, and that is immediately kind of empowering. I really do like it. I feel like if a victim of SA was able to bear through the potential triggers here, I feel as though this would be a very empowering story, because you get to see someone not be defined by it, like you said, but also withstand, persist, improve as a person. Like, again, I don't think we're going to see Guts continue as an adult to be someone who is completely broken and can't try to have happiness in his life, or it wouldn't be able to keep being soul crushing in the future because you give up on someone who gives up on themselves.
Yeah, I would agree. And I like that I got to see him knowing that it was going to change him, but also knowing that he was going to get the revenge that not in the future. This isn't one of those cold revenges that I have to wait his whole damn life. And then in an arc a gazillion years later, he finally gets
You know,
revenge.
we are getting that too because he's clearly on a revenge path against Griffith in the future.
Obviously. But this one, this was a good revenge. High five all the way.
And we get another pretty quick revenge too in this section.
That's not a lie. That is such a good truth. Oh, I was here for Gambino's leg coming off. I will say about Gambino's leg coming off, I don't care. Haha.
Look, I take back my Gambino placement, but hey, I'm also gonna put another character on the top 5 today that I'm gonna regret in the future. So who cares?
Oh, good for you. Is it going to be the person I put in the top 5 last time?
Maybe, might be, could be, could be,
Yeah, maybe,
could be that.
maybe,
Yeah.
might be, maybe.
I just want to say in this part, I want to compliment the artwork because I think this unromantic, gritty, almost diagram like depiction of medieval siege warfare is so uncommon and so well done here. Like, I loved seeing it. It always looked good. These giant zoomed out sprawls, these battle scenes, all of the medieval warfare here looks incredible. And one of my favorite things is so many medieval aesthetics for armor look really dorky by modern standards, so we never represent them. And they are all over the place here, but we are able to get away with it by putting it on bad guys.
Yes.
So armored mittens and the big snout noses and all this dumb shit that's, you know, very effective and was a real part of medieval warfare, we are representing by showing on the bad guys. And I love it. I love the aesthetic of dorky looking medieval armor. And when I see it, it makes me fucking happy. I love it. Ugh.
I have a kid in my school who makes armor, like fully makes armor.
Why are the kids in your school so sitcom coded?
I like that he goes and sits by dude's bed, even though he thinks that it's possible that he did what he did. And then as he's like, don't die on me, I'm on my way back. And then he cries, Gambino, and he's all sad. And 2 years later, and he's fighting, and Gambino is still sitting on top of a hill, just with his dog, giving the dog more joy than he ever gave Guts, and loving the dog in a way that Guts would never be, which is just that subtle metaphor of Guts being lower to him than the animals in his life.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, in my world, to be fair, I often like animals better than people. So yeah, expect that.
Dude, this whole section, I am just constantly being astounded by how human everybody feels. Like, Gambino to me feels like such a real dude. Like, you know, people like that who every nice thing they do, they think they are owed so much for that it justifies all of the evil that they do. And that's Gambino. And he's written so compellingly and well. He's so believable in his shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to write cartoonish villains, but Gambino feels like something else to me. Like, he feels like a legitimate real guy would act. Oh my god, dude. He's awful in a very real way.
He even kicks the dog. Like,
Mhm.
and somebody just said, as I was looking at this page, he doesn't even like the dog that much. It's almost like he likes the dog just so that Guts can see that he likes the dog more than him.
Yep.
And you know, lots of people who act like that.
Oh, absolutely.
A Joker then, why don't we see how sharp your wit is? I don't care if there's only 2 of you. If you ain't brave enough to fight a wounded man, I want to hear any crap out of you. Like, he's the level of bully this person is, and the fact that he thinks that he is owed so much for so little. He's done almost nothing, is pretty interesting because it makes him a demon who isn't a demon.
Yep.
And then Guts's life in the real world prior to being given up is also being held by demons.
Well,
and
the
Guts-
demon who isn't a demon is really fascinating because we see him here willing to sell Guts for 3 silver, right? The actual demon wasn't willing to sell his child for limitless godly power and immortality.
Godly power.
Inherently, Gambino is worse than the actual demon because his son he'd sell for 3 fucking silver, whereas the real demon wouldn't sell his child for all of the power in the world. That comparison I hadn't thought about before is so cool.
Yeah, he is the demon without being a demon. And if you look, there's a page 42 in the top left-hand corner where we see his face, and he looks as demonic as any of the actual demons that we meet later on.
This is an important note, very important note. You ready?
I'm ready.
I have realized in doing Berserk with you why I spelled the word demon with a second D at the end as a child, because it turns out that's just how you pronounce that word.
I pronounce some things different. You know that.
You do. You have some words that you like to have fun with, and that's fine. But I've now realized why I thought it was actually spelled demon.
I've always pronounced demon, demon.
Do we have an explanation for this? Do we have lore?
It sounds more evil. Deny that demon sounds cut off and demon sounds like strongly a demon.
All right.
The same reason that I won't call it library because it sounds messy in your mouth, so I call it library because it's cleaner. I'm not frustrated, I'm frustrated. Saying frustrate is frustrating to
Oh my
say.
God. If frustrated is frustrating, it's doing its job. I'll listen to you on the other two.
I'll stand behind it.
Hey, where do we move to now? What happened?
He's laying in bed and he's going on about how he should stop thinking about it and he just needs to think about surviving tomorrow and all the different enemies and earning money. And then as he's trying not to think about his life and all the shit that has happened to him, in comes Shitface, who's a crap father with a sword and a missing leg, and decides, this is the time I'm going to fight you. I also thought that he was going to essay him, and I was like, are you shitting
Look, I
me?
don't think Gambino would do that in particular. Not because he's not evil enough, but just he doesn't seem like that flavor of evil, you know?
No, when I looked on page 48 in the right up-hand corner, he looked like a person who might not choose to be a pedo, but a person who got drunk and angry and decided, what is the thing that I could do that would hurt this person
Yeah,
the
I could see
most?
that. Never mind. I'll give it to you.
It was the thing that I thought that he was saying to himself, how much could I hurt this person
Yeah.
before I killed this person?
I absolutely think sober him wouldn't try to kill Mr. Guts Berserk. This is not to defend him, because I think there was a weird amount of affection he had for the kid despite being an evil bastard. I
Yeah.
think drunk him got miserable about the state of his life and found someone to blame.
Yeah, and the fact that his face looks as demonic as it does all the time, like you should have died on that day 11 years ago beneath your mother's corpse. And that's when I went, 11 years ago? So just so that I'm clear,
Yeah.
just so I'm clear,
Yeah, yeah, you want to be
2
clear.
years have passed since he was SA'd. I guess he was 9.
Yeah.
And now he's been fighting as a mercenary for 2 more years.
Yes.
He is only 11.
Yes, he is 11
He is
and
11 years
Gambino has
old.
been forcing him to fight because he needs to earn his keep.
And then he's like, just a minute here. I just wanna talk about how we found you on the ground because your mother's body just sent you out after she died.
Yeah, Mr. Guts, I'm gonna just remind you of all of the horrors you've experienced real quick before I try to murder you.
Is that okay? I just want to give you a clear picture of the day. I'm an MC, if you will, of the end of your life.
An MC of the end of your life? What? Oh, don't give him that line. That's cool as fuck. MC of the end of your life is such like an action movie thing to say.
I say cool as shit things, and I can't help it if Gambino is in there.
I'm sorry, that's rad. That's radical. Yeah, you're not allowed to speak for shitty people anymore. You're too powerful, it turns out.
So then I think that the author all the time is trying to make this comparison between him being a demonic person and not being a demon. And you can see that because on page 52 in the upper left-hand corner of the right-hand side, there's a freaking bolt of lightning behind him. His face is possessed.
Mhm.
And this is when he says, I'll let you in on something. You remember what happened the night of your first battle? Donovan bought you for 3 silver coins. Oh my
To
God.
bring that up, to be like, hey, you know that thing that you were clearly suspicious of, and then I denied it by acting like I'd done nothing and nothing was wrong.
Pretended nothing had ever happened and gaslit you so you didn't know if it was actually true?
Yeah,
Sorry, not sorry. I did sell you.
yeah,
Jesus. And then he gets this gross face. Why? Because I was sick of you. That's why.
yep.
Ugh.
Yeah, I take back saying anything positive about him. I think that he thinks he's done his best because otherwise he wouldn't feel justified in treating Guts this way. He's wrong. He's a bastard. I apologize to everyone for briefly thinking. I mean, he is actually a well written character. He's still compelling. The series is full of compelling bastards.
I think one of the saddest pages ever drawn is the one where he just is saying, why? And tears are welling up in his a little 11-year-old baby face. He's 11. Oh my God. And then when Gambino lunges at him on the Golden Age End 2, and his sword goes through his throat because he just lifts it. He just lifts his sword and the man runs into it. I can't say that I was unhappy about it. I was like, you know what would be really good is if I got to see that again. And he did me a solid drop. I turned the page into the next chapter and it starts with like the super detailed drawing of Gambino dying. I've got the
Can I say
blood,
I
got
felt
the
bad about it
wound.
just because I knew Guts didn't want to kill him. Like this made Guts sad.
But can I say that I feel like Guts gave me a gift?
Yeah, he did. The issue is this is also revenge, but it's not revenge Guts wanted. Like
No, it may not, but I think it is one of the things that helps him become a more resilient person in the
I
future.
agree. I think this is an important growing experience for Mr. Guts Berserk.
Okay, well, I want you to imagine if he hadn't have killed Gambino and eventually he had found his way out of this group. Like it would be difficult for him to even find his way out of this group, but imagine he finds his way out of this mercenary group. Gambino, who he knows now, sold him,
Mhm.
literally sold his ass for 3
Oh my
silvers.
god, that was such a bad joke. That was so
Um
that was so terrible. Oh.
exists in the world, just exists out there in the world, being the piece of crap he is, existing, and it would feel like a pole and a it would you know what it would feel like? It would feel like the way that I see certain politicians. It would feel like a giant postulating cyst just out there in the world that's pulsing with oozing evil waiting for you. And I see this man as a living cyst.
I agree that he could only have the modicum of freedom he did because Gambino died here. I want
Exactly.
to I want to add something to this scene that I found myself thinking how tragic it is that my guess is Griffith marked him for sacrifice and probably also Casca to ascend because we know you have to
Yeah.
sacrifice the things you value and the only thing he's ever wanted was Guts. That's how Guts became marked. That's why demons are hunting him because he was supposed to be consumed by hell because he was marked for sacrifice, okay? Now,
Yeah.
how sad is it that Guts is cursed with this mark of sacrifice that someone who valued him, the first person to see him for him and value and want him around, sacrificed him and gave him a curse that embodies what he was told by the people who raised him. They told him he was a walking disaster, that he only brought pain to those around him. And the
Yeah.
first person who valued him made that true, made the thing
Yeah.
people said as superstition true. That's horrific.
Yeah.
That's so up.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say, but I don't wanna skip ahead too much, but I just felt like seeing this backstory and seeing how much it ripped his heart out to be in this situation, to have the person that he saw as a father figure doing this to him, and then moving it forward into the future, I was like, "You piece of shit." Let's get through here, we can't skip ahead too much, but we'll move ahead more. His I think that him leaving the mercenary group and the way that he took off wasn't particularly important to me. It was interesting that the person called him, "He's a father killer." And I was like, "Are you really saying that?" Like, how many there's open secrets, right? In groups. You're telling me in your raiding party that there wasn't a bunch of you that didn't know that he was sexually assaulted by this person? That a bunch of you didn't know that
I
Gambino put him in that
I think it
situation?
didn't. I think the only reason I would give benefit of the doubt and say that that isn't the case is because Gambino probably figured out Guts killed him. Like literally, a dude who was probably a competent, strong mercenary died literally right after, and it happened the next day. Like because of that, I think Gambino
That
wouldn't
he
have
might
shared
not have
it.
had time to
I
talk about
I
it?
think he would have realized he should keep it. I don't think it was ever an open secret. I don't think there was time for
Maybe,
it. And I think
maybe.
seeing Guts immediately kill the guy, he was like, all right, so we're not doing that one again.
I think it's very interesting though that they called him a father killer. It makes you think about the entire world. Like, yeah, Guts's life is dark, but the world is so fucking dark.
Yeah.
Because they still call him a father figure to him. They think that the level of love, attention, and respect that he received from this grown man is evidence of being a father. I
Yeah.
want you to think about your father. Now think about this father. And they're like, he's a father killer. And I would be like, do you mean bully killer?
Well, if we look at comparing dads, Gambino has one edge over my father, which is he passed on the family trade, and that's about it. That's the one edge I'll give him.
You didn't want your father's family trade.
Yeah, but I mean, like Gambino did teach his man how to sword fight. We can't deny that. That's the one advantage I'm going to give him in the scoreboards. Yeah, I take back saying anything positive about him. It ends up being 30-1 is the final score.
When he was laying under the moon and the stars and he was bleeding out all over the place, I started to do that same thing that I did in One Piece and wonder if the sky was looking back on him, because it really felt like the moon was looking back on him when he was laying out there looking up at the moon. Started to think about the god's hand. So you've got the god, we've talked about it. A god
Yeah.
has to exist. It sends its hand out to act in its
Yeah,
point.
the all-powerful well, I don't think the demons are necessary are they that? Oh, that's a question. Is it called the
The
God's
hand of
Hand?
God. That's what I'm
You think
wondering.
it's literal. I figured the
Yeah.
God was opposed to the demons still, and we were gonna do something Christian because their worship was being
Why do we
called
have a god hand? Why would
so
we call it the
so
hand of
hear
God
me
if it
out.
wasn't
Hear
working on
me out
behalf of the
on
god?
my track, right? The people worshiping the demons were being called pagans.
Yeah.
So my figuring was, oh, okay, that means that the God's Hand are demons. They are the things pagans worship. But then I realized not necessarily. We don't know they were worshiping demons. The pagans could have been worshiping old gods, the gods who were before. Demons could
Yeah.
be servants of this new God that has overthrown paganism, that has become the monotheistic thing.
Yeah.
I hadn't even considered that. I was associating the pagan religions with this, but you could easily have a new monotheistic religion who is served by the demons, by the God's Hand. That's why they're called that. That's where God's
Yeah.
power comes by. And the old gods are paganism. It would also fit in with the lore of Fear and Hunger, which, to my knowledge, was heavily inspired as a mythology by Berserk.
In my head, when I was reading this, that if that's the hand of God, then God is evil. And I don't know if there's more than one God in here and it's monotheistic, or if
Yeah.
this is just an evil God. But I've decided there is a God at least, and it's evil. And this is the hand that it sends out to act in its deed, and that it changes its hand or the fingers of its hand. There's 5, and it changes them consistently, because that would make sense for me that it has these things act on behalf of it. Also, why Griffith got in, because otherwise, if you don't burn out your god hand, there wouldn't have been a space for Griffith.
True, because 5 fingers, you'd just think that there wouldn't be a bunch of them. I felt as though I had kind of started to assume the reason I was assuming there was only one god of this faith was that they were calling things pagan, and the word pagan has this heavy association with like there's a monotheistic faith and these are polytheistic old faiths, which is kind of why I
Yeah.
was feeling like there probably are multiple gods, but the newer faith that has inspired the word, it's the use of the word pagan. The word pagan to me is used specifically to draw on the imagery of Christianity, the monotheistic new faith, minimizing polytheistic or animist old faiths.
Okay, so follow me for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So either the orange juice scene with the pagan god
Yeah.
is the same god, and
Okay.
he doesn't know that he thinks he's fighting against that.
Okay.
But when he became a demon, he was really actually just also part of the orange juice clan, or as I'm going to call them, the breakfast club. You heard me.
Yeah.
Or there is more than one god. Who's to say any of them are good in this one? And the god that he is following, that the hands of the gods rule, is an evil SOB. So I don't know which one it is, if there is no devil or if the devil and the god are in the same place. But somebody who was Christian would feel like it was a revelation about God being evil. And that's why I think in that direction.
Okay. I'm curious to see which way it goes.
I am too.
My belief is partially informed by my knowledge of Fear and Hunger, which I'm aware is inspired. So this is a bit of information, but it could be misleading me. But my belief is that there is polytheistic faiths that worship some sort of old god, that some people have ascended to become the God Hand as new gods. My question is it going to be the Christian God is an ascended deity like the God Hand, or is it going to be something else? Kind of feeling I don't want to just say Fear and Hunger's mythology is the thing, but I do think there's probably a polytheistic faith of older deities as well.
What is Fear and Hunger?
It is a grimdark, gritty video game that I watch Let's Plays of. I don't know if it applies to
The
Berserk.
first thing I think, that God and the devil might be the same person.
Oh.
That dude thinks that he's fighting against, but actuality he's fighting for and against the same God, and that God just thinks it's fun as shit. Hear me out.
Yes.
I'm going to Momzerk. When he first falls on the ground, the moon is almost sun-like in its vibrancy. And then when we change the page, he's just laying there. He's in shock about what he's done. He's staring at the moon. It's still kind of sun-like in its spikiness. He's just laying in the water, his sword beside him. He's not doing anything. And then suddenly the moon changes. And we can see the moon. His eyes are still big. Then he focuses. His eyes soften. They close a little. He grips the ground, he finds the strength, and he stands up. So then I started to wonder, like, okay, within that change there, am I just looking at him and his vision and his shock, and I'm watching that fade? Or am I watching him be reached down to, being given some strength to stand? And then I wonder, is there a real God that cares about him in this? Or does that God just think it's funny to make him get up and carry on? I don't know. But he keeps being like, I'm cold. I've lost too much blood. I have 2 broken ribs. I don't know where I'm going. It would have been easier just to lay and die. There'd be nothing anymore. Here, there's only bad stuff. And then he has to fight freaking wolves. And I was like, are you kidding me right
Can
now?
I say something that I loved about this wolf moment?
Yeah.
Wolves are misrepresented a lot in media of how they behave, and they're kind of seen as like all vengeful murder machines. And I was like, look, a starving wolf, if they see an injured human, probably would attack, even though they don't normally attack humans. But if wolves are hungry, like if they haven't had a lot of food lately, which in a war zone, not that unlikely, they would attack an injured human. But like once he'd killed a couple of them, I was like, okay, wolves are intelligent. They're not going to buy into sunk cost fallacy that much. They're going to realize, we got to run if enough of them die. And I feel like we're going to do the thing media always does, where the wolves just keep coming because they're death monsters. And then instead, after like 3 of them are dead, the wolves are like, all right, let's bounce. Just pack it in, guys. Good game, good game.
But then we do see that there's carriages coming in the distance.
Yeah.
But they do start
Yeah.
to bounce. So that was well done. You know what is amazing in that moment?
Was that?
They show up and nothing is going to be cooler than this. They show up and they're like, hey, look, he's just a kid. Is he alive? Yeah, but he's pretty bad shape. Oh, so are these wolves. Either way, he's got good luck, and he emphasized it and bolded it, getting found by us in the middle of the wilderness. Good luck with mercenaries like this. Oh yeah, Angus, that's what I was saying. We just need another man in our squad. So who knows if he's runaway slave or what? The world's a strange place. And I was like, is his luck gonna change? It's almost like I forgot about the entire thing we had read already. And in my heart, I was like, oh good. Is his luck gonna change now? He's got good luck. Oh God. But then his last words are him trailing after and looking at Gambino. 4 years later, so he was 11, he's now 15.
Yeah.
You said what about the very first siege page?
The very first siege page to me just felt like those old like medieval textbooks that we'd read in social studies that show like big battle scenes zoomed out, show all the like details. It's very unromantic and it feels almost like a diagram. Like, I don't know, that sort of medieval siege warfare isn't drawn like this a lot, and I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was so well done.
It's super cool. It reminded me of Where's Waldo.
Which absolutely, because Where's Waldo does that same almost diagram vibe, zoomed out such a high angle that it's like you're looking at miniatures, which is very much what I felt from this.
100%. Yeah, I loved it. It was super cool. I kept looking for Waldo.
Did you find him?
And by Waldo, I mean guts. I was looking for guts. And then I realized they're all wearing masks. It's pretty hard to find my particular Waldo.
Hey, do you know what they call Where's Waldo in jolly old London town?
Tell me, I'm interested.
Where's Wally?
Wally? Why? What's wrong with Waldo?
I have no idea, but it's Where's Wally?
Like, why would you change that?
Where's Wally gone? Where's my Wally?
If they were going to do anything, they should have said, where's Willie?
Now, do you want to hear something else I found out that's fucking crazy? Do you know what the evil Waldo in Where's Waldo is called?
Okay.
His name is Oddlaw, which is Waldo reversed. And do you know what in Where's Wally they call Oddlaw?
What?
Oddlaw. His name is still Oddlaw in Where's Wally?
I don't understand that.
Why? Why?
All right. I want to move forward because I want to talk about the weird Stay Puft Marshmallow Man / shmoo.
I'm sorry. The knight with the big axe?
The shmoo Marshmallow Man.
I'm not sure I know what you're talking about.
You don't know what a shmoo
No,
is?
what-
If you look up a shmoo, all you're going to see,
Gotta do more Googling, guys.
Bazuso, but without the cod piece.
Dude, that's not him at all. That's not him at all.
Yeah, it is. It's evil him. Don't piss me off. You wouldn't like me when I was angry.
Shmoo looks nothing like that man.
He does. I know, because a beam of sunlight have just come out of the heavens and landed in front of me.
Bazuso's his name?
Bazuso. That's him. Just make his head bigger and put on a helmet. Bazuso. Give him a cod piece too.
I can't believe you. Guys, same man, right?
It's the same man.
It's funny how we went from talking about Where's Waldo to talking about those Spot the Difference books. And this one, impossible.
They all could see it. Give him arms and an axe.
I mean, hey, we're on an art show. We can do that. Let's see.
Don't forget his helmet. Arms, axe, and
We're
helmet.
doing it.
Don't forget the cod piece. Don't forget the cod piece and oven mitt hands.
We're doing it. We're doing it. We're working on it.
Telling you, it's the same
This is
dude.
important. The people need to see shmoo.
There is no shmoo. There's only Bazuso.
Yeah, okay.
Same.
Moving on. Shmoo.
No one's gonna get past me. Anyone who wants their head smashed and step right up. Okay, shmoo, take it down. Shmoo. And then who should step up? Mr. Guts Berserk. That's his early theme song. Da 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 da. Little punk showing off. The fool's gonna get himself killed. Well, let him try.
He's trying to take on Shmoo, the marshmallow mascot.
You're gonna regret this, kid. Getting your head knocked off for 7 gold coins. Yeah, he might. But then when we change the page and we get to 197 or 8, he looks like he's phasing. Did you notice that?
No.
That he's fighting him, and then do you remember when Puck says, I thought that he was just flinging his sword around and I couldn't always see what he was doing, but now that I see him fighting in this way with this person, I've realized that he's a sword master. It was just before he just randomly said, Berserk.
When he needed to remind us what we were reading.
That's the one. He was doing some of the same things later on. This made me feel like he was phasing, that he was moving so quickly that he was able to channel. It looks like he's able to channel the energy of the earth.
It didn't look like phasing to me. I think that's just meant to be an artistic representation of he quick.
Like overly quick. It seemed almost too quick. You know what I mean?
I mean, it would make a bit of sense because the only people we've seen who are that level of skilled and speed are him and Griffith, who both have little pointy elf boy ears.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm wondering if there's something to him. Does it talk to his elfy ears? What does it talk to? But it shocked the shit out of Shmoo. Shmoo was like, shit, I'm being actually fought with right now. I might do the dying. And so it made me think that maybe that he has some kind of special power that was given to him, that it was given to him by like a god who then turns his back on him. So that it made me see like, okay, was it the same god? Is the devil and the god the same person, or is God evil? But it was almost like, let me give you something, or is this part of his culture?
Let me tell you something here, right? Yeah. I think if I'm right, and there are old gods, because that's what pagans are, the elves and elf ears would be, to me, related to that, because elves aren't part of Christian mythos, they're part of pagan mythos.
I think it could be elves and elf ears. Like, I'm comfortable with that existing.
Well, so hear me out, right? So the elves and elf ears, I think, would be part of the pagan mythos. I think they would be connected to the old gods, if anything, specifically not whatever this world's Christian god is.
I would agree. They make anyone who's in the middle of, who's in like a battle frenzy or in an anger frenzy, they change their faces to a blackout. They did that to him before he split Shmoo's skull in half. Do you remember when I told you the story of when I watched that kid's eye come out of its socket?
Yeah, that's a frequently recurring story. Yeah,
it's a story that I can't forget. You understand? I did watch an eye fly out of somebody's.
I imagine you are cursed with that image for the rest of your life. Yes, and the one sweet bliss of dementia, if it comes for you, sadly, will be that it may cleanse that image.
That would be the only sweet bliss. Yeah, but I got to tell you, the eye coming out of here is not far off. I mean, it's not exact, but it's not far off.
Good to know.
And I was like, you know what? Excellent accuracy. Mine had less blood and went down on his cheek.
I mean, to be fair, it didn't happen from 80s playground equipment, not from a sword to the head.
I like how all of a sudden Griffith shows up beside him and he goes, who's stronger, you or him? There's no comparison, man. It's Griffith. It's right, Griffith. And then Griffith shows up beside him. But what was up with that weird Prince King dude's face that looked like thickly, Frenchly, I don't know what he looks like. He looks like someone and I can't put my finger on it. The dude
Griffith
who's
just
like,
looks...
the dude that he's like, work for me and I will pay you better than you have ever been paid before.
I think that might have been the general of the army that hired Guts' mercenaries.
Yeah, but like he looks like someone I can't put my finger on. And I'm just like...
You know who he looks like? Karl Franz.
And kind of Errol Flynn, too.
Warhammer Fantasy fans know what's up. You got that Karl Franz drip. There has to be a crossover of fans between Berserk and Warhammer Fantasy. I refuse to believe none of you Berserk fans know Warhammer Fantasy enough to like and know Karl Franz.
I love that he once again did the whole don't touch me, don't you ever touch me thing. I love that we're going to get to see that over time, because I was worried that he was going to be, oh my God, I'm going to say this and then it's going to happen. I was worried that he was gonna be sexually assaulted again because I was like, is he still doing that in his adulthood because it's happened so many times? And then I saw him at 15 doing it, and I was like, "Oh, maybe it's left over still from his childhood, and I'm not gonna have to see that happen to him again. It's just gonna happen when he was 9." But I can see Griffith doing it.
You could. Griffith pulling an essay on our boy does feel decidedly possible.
I thought it was very interesting that when he was laying out there in the grass and then the other mercenaries decided to go and pick on him and Griffith decided to do nothing. I feel like when we were watching him fight originally when they were in the battle, I almost felt like when Griffith looked over him that he marked him, that it was just he took his eyes, he put them up and down him and he was just like, yeah, that one. Kind of like the way that a stalker would do, that for whatever reason that person just does something to them and they decide, nope, that's the one for me. That's what it felt like when I looked back over it, and I was like, Griffith has marked our boy, Mr. Guts Berserk,
I
already before he's given him his other devil mark.
this is going to be a brief departure for and for people who haven't read Dr. Stone, this is fine. I love Dr. Stone in a lot of ways, but it has some thematic things that rub me the wrong way. And the best example I can have is Ryusuke. So much of what he is the same as Griffith, but instead of played as menacing and dangerous, is played as like benevolent and good, and it's just the same energy. Ryusuke is just a Griffith we're supposed to like. That's all.
Thank you.
Dr. Stone people in the audience know what I'm saying.
I don't doubt it. I don't, you big weirdo, but I'm sure people do. And then when he has that battle, I don't have much to say about the first battle he has. It felt like it just needed to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when he's having the battle with the people who are in their troop and we're finding out that that girl has given up everything, including being a woman, they said later. And so it's important for her that she gets love from Griffith and then Griffith is not giving her the love. I don't think there's a lot to say in it. It was necessary.
Yeah,
It had
it
to
moves the
happen.
plot forward.
It moves the plot forward. I don't have a lot. Their fight was predictable. I knew that Griffith would toy with him. Griffith feels like a cat. When he took his helmet off, I was like, seriously? Seriously? We're saying this as a dude? Okay, whatever.
It's just a pretty guy.
But what was a little bit unexpected, however,
Uh-huh.
was him saying he owned him. I own you now.
Yep.
And so he leaves and he has to be cared for. He forces the poor girl to lay with him for however long so that because he's lost too much blood and he's cold. He's already being haunted. For Christ's sakes, already in his sleep, he's being chased. I mean, he's being chased by the dude that he killed. He's being chased on shmoo 4.5. But
we can't just everybody shmoo.
And then suddenly he goes back into kind of a more realistic dream, but now he's with Gambino and he's picking up Gambino's legs from a bunch of dead people. And I was like, so dude was literally, before he was marked for death, already having these devil dreams. So his life was already being pulled apart. He's already not getting a good sleep.
Well,
so we're talking years.
This ties into what I was saying earlier about how what probably happened of Griffith sacrificing Guts for power being so up because the curse he put on him just made magically real all of the things that hunted Guts the most. This statement that he only brought disaster, these
100%.
dreams that haunt him, it just cursed him to make all of holy shit, no, this is perfect. This is so symbolically perfect. If we're right about what almost certainly happened, that Griffith sacrificed Guts, marked him with the mark, it's beautiful because it means Guts had all of this trauma, all this hurt, all of this mental baggage that he was trying to live past. And the statement is, if the person you first trust, that you first learn to give a piece of yourself to, betrays that trust, it digs all of your scars in permanent. It makes them unavoidable. It ingrains them in yourself. It makes them too real to move past because you did give your trust in yourself to a person and they reconfirmed, rebaked in and hardened. The curse mark of Guts, the thing that you said, Guts represented the mental illness and Puck represented the healthy mind. Guts can only be the mental illness because the first person he trusted and loved told him all he was all of the scars that haunted him, all of the things he was always told he was. And now that just is who Guts is left as being.
Whereas Puck was what he could have been.
Which we see with the moment that is the death of his innocence, having him drawn to look like Puck.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
yeah, that's a really good connection. A really great connection.
I'm shocked at how much depth we're able to find in this series so quickly.
This series is like popping off. It's a crazy manga. When he wakes up and sees a face, I thought it was interesting that though she was a girl, she looks so much like him.
Yeah.
And when he opens them and he looks at her, the very first thing he says is dark eyes,
Mm.
which was bizarre and made me think like a woman, dark eyes. When he was looking at it, that A, it conferred that it wasn't the person who had hurt him. And B, it felt almost like it was okay because this was a woman who was laying against him. And B, that it looked so different, so much like him.
I think so much like him, but also the fact that he was asleep when it happened almost, I think, helped for him because he didn't have the
Yeah.
option to reject touch and had to be forced to realize, like, he genuinely losing consent actually helped him here because he didn't have the
Yeah.
opportunity to reject it and was forced to realize that nonviolent touch can be comfort and warmth instead of pain.
But it's kind of weird. And why do we keep saying goddamn dark eyes?
You know?
So he sees her talking to Griffith, and then she goes to leave, and Griffith puts both hands on her shoulders, which is weird. Everything that Griffith is doing is too weird. You know what I
He's a
mean?
weird guy.
It's too caring. It's too love. And then she storms off and goes by him, and he goes, dark eyes. And then she punches him. So he obviously says dark eyes inside. I wish you died after Griffith was through with you. And I was just like, interesting. And it's interesting that he keeps having to notice her dark eyes. And I don't know exactly what's going on there.
Man, I can't wait to see Casca fall for guts before she's horribly murdered.
Or not. Like she might do something ungood. I can't decide what the look on her face is when she's watching.
I think my theory of what is going to happen might be too informed by cultural osmosis. While I haven't heard for sure, like I haven't heard details, I've heard enough that I don't think I can fairly make a guess.
I'm waiting for them to say that prayer / calling, whatever the hell it is about the sword again. I can't wait to see where we get the sword. But is that sword going to be given to us by a god? Are we going to find that sword in a place? Is it going to be a King Arthurian moment? What is it going to be? That sword is coming to us in an interesting way, and I can't wait to find out. I like that Griffith likes it so much, only because it lets us see Griffith's facial expression in so many ways. They even talk about it later, but at this point, I was like, it's wild the way they keep showing Griffith go from childlike to like evil dude.
But they comment on it too.
They commented about it later on, and I was like, whoa.
I just had a realization. Who's ready for military martial arts character analysis?
Oh, go ahead.
Do you know how someone fights with a greatsword in a military setting? What a greatsword is good for?
Hacking, isn't it? Like overhand.
Hacking, detangling, and more than anything, deflecting. The main reason great swords, well, and horses important, killing big creatures.
And horses,
but
I was gonna
the
say.
major reason great swords took off in military usage was during the pike era, because pikes are made to keep people at a distance, and the main thing you do with a great sword is in big sweeping arcs, you deflect and smash into the shaft, reverberating, knocking people's defenses off guard.
That would have been you, PPSS, if you're feeling awesome about it. You would have been a horse killer if you had been back then.
Probably if I were in the Middle Ages, I'd be great swordsman. That it would be my vibe. It was high risk shock troopers who went in at the risk of great personal injuries to sweep aside and basically destroy defenses, getting through defenses, getting to the meat of it. And Guts is a character who is blunt, direct, doesn't like this dance of deflection, but also likes to keep people at a distance, which is why in 1v1ing greatsword fighting style actually had about 30% of its martial arts handbook taken from spear martial arts handbooks because they were too large to use about 30% of the longsword martial arts. Rapiers, on the other hand, are mostly a personal defense weapon rather than a military weapon. In military circumstances, to my knowledge, it was mostly used on ships because they were good in close quarters. And Griffith is a character who wants to be intimate and close with people. But more importantly, rapiers cannot parry in a more traditional sense. With a longsword or a waster or an estoc or whatever sword you want, you can smash into the blade and deflect. But because rapiers have all of their their weight in a heavy handle instead of a heavy blade. They're similar weight to a longsword, but their weight in a handle so that you can pivot quickly. They dance around things. They are indirect, manipulative weapons that use the momentum and drive of the weapon attacking them to disengage. A greatsword parries aggressively, offense first, high risk, smashing actively. Instead of a traditional parry, it is a smash, getting through defenses and attacking an attack, blasting through with weight, strength, and directness.
So your point is that these two people are their
They are
weapons.
opposites and they are their weapons. A rapier defends by getting behind an attack and exaggerating its own momentum to get it where you want it to be
Yeah.
instead of where they
Yeah.
want it to be, adding more force to someone else. And Griffith is someone who is getting behind people, their drive, and pushing them towards his ends. So these two, their personalities, how they act, are reflected in how their weapons are used.
That's crazy. So if we're going to be following Guts, then in this theory, we would also be following a story that is blunt and to the point.
Blunt, to the point, and it wants to smash through all of the obfuscation, all of the ways the story wants to keep us at bay and simplify.
And protects its emotional well-being
Yeah.
by being a blunt force
By being a blunt
against
force
you.
and using aggression as your defense, using this smashing, sweeping motion to knock away threat. Whereas the rapier is intimate, close weapon that wants to manipulate and get behind to redirect things.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's not ever forget that so that we can follow along the lines. I have a feeling we'll get to know piece of shit Griffith very well.
What sword does Casca use? Because I wonder if I can get something from that. Is it just a regular longsword?
She just uses a regular longsword.
Longswords are Mario. I refuse to elaborate. Let's move on.
Okay, so Griffith says the way you fight is almost as though you're gambling with your own life, which we know for sure is absolutely true. And Griffith is talking in a way where Griffith is trying to pull Guts in. I think that it was very interesting. The reason I put a comment on here, I even have a corgi sticker here. I'm using corgi post-it notes in my Berserk book
That's so cute to say. I have a corgi here.
because I like corgis peeking out of all these pages, being sweet little corgis while I'm talking about and looking at Berserk. So the way that Griffith is looking so angelic and has dumped down all of the things that protect him and just looks as if he's being completely vulnerable while he's standing in front of Guts is really interesting because you can see that he's using everything in his powers to manipulate who Guts is. And he's saying, like, I'm not a physical threat to you. I'm not a threat at all, as a matter of fact. I've just noticed some things about you. I think that you're fighting like you're trying to kill yourself. You're also struggling to make it out alive. That's how it felt to me. You're interesting. And I've taken a liking to you. I want you, Guts. And he looks the most feminine he can before he says that. And then Guts is standing there looking at them. Who does he think he is? Who is he talking to? And if I say no, do you? You bet your ass I say no. And then he asks him if he wants him in a homosexual way, which was very interesting. This all makes me sick, blah, blah, blah,
I
blah,
mean,
blah.
it,
Do
it,
you
it
know who you're
does
talking
make sense for where Guts has been and what he knows of the world. That
100%. But it was super fun because if you look at all of these pages, Griffith in one of them looks so much younger than Guts and just has this innocent little expression on his face like, I don't know why you would even question me in that way. And da 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 da. And all I kept thinking is, dude is definitely trying to goat you into fighting. And even though dude says maybe you should wait because you're still weak, dude is definitely trying to goat you because in this moment, in this fight, there is something in it that is like magic that is going to attach you to Griffith for all eternity. And Griffith is using this as a moment to own you.
yeah,
Because when he said, I own you, I was like, oh shit. He did. He goaded him into this fight intentionally. And now, whether Guts knows it or not, when he said he wanted you, he meant he wanted to own your soul.
and now he gets
And
to,
that's what he's going for.
which is what the drawing I'm doing is about.
And when he's like, oh, you're so good, and da 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 da, da, and I need to be faster, I need to be stronger. And they're having this fight, which was really easy to follow. He does an amazing
Yeah.
job at the fight pictures because they're not always good, I've noticed. Fight pictures are hard to follow.
He's gotten better. I think earlier on it was harder to track, and I think it still is sometimes in the big military scenes, but I think those are meant to be a bit chaotic. Like they're meant to be snapshots, like vignettes, whereas this was meant to be a duel. We saw all of it. I think it's very cool that you see the advantages both of them have in the fight choreography, where you see Griffith having the advantage of speed and poise and skill, and Guts, it's not even strength, it's also just like brutality and this animalistic drive that is his biggest advantage.
It's literally also just being in the way, trying to fight against a great sword. It's why it works on
Yeah.
horses. Like it's freaking huge. It's hard to actually maneuver
It
quick
takes
enough
up
to get
so
out of
much
the way.
space. Yeah.
But if I had been choosing the picture this week and I get to choose next week,
Yes.
I would have chosen when Griffith jumped on his great
Oh,
sword.
that would have
When
been
he thought
good.
that he had them and Griffith jumped up on top of his great sword. I thought that described their relationship in a nutshell. That every single time Guts thinks he might get the edge, Griffith does something
Well, but
unpredictable.
both of them did. They both kept defying expectations.
I agree, but Griffith in the end, his oh my God. And then as a person who's gone through some teeth problems lately, watching that whole him biting the sword moment was a bit much for my teeth. I actually could feel it.
Whoa.
It was just,
I just realized something
ah!
amazing. The symbology is so powerful. You're right that they both get the one up on the other one. Griffith, by being above what Guts thought was possible and jumping on top of the sword. Guts, by
Yes.
being below how low Griffith thought he would go,
Yes.
being an animal and biting the sword. They subverted
Yeah.
each other's expectations, one by being higher than expected, one by being lower than expected. So much of the status of this relationship is on display here.
Yes. I would absolutely
I also
agree.
want to know, I wanted to ask what you want to draw on, but then as I started, this vision came to me of using Griffith's hair to be the tower for the scene.
The reason I like what you did is I was just thinking how I used to say to you weird things like, I want to see this and
Yeah,
this, but with this. And then it would allow you to do some original
yeah.
pieces. And we haven't done a lot of that.
So I wanted to combine sort of two different panels here to create the image
Yeah.
of this is Guts through seeing the love that Griffith's men have for him falling for Griffith.
I think that I would have been disappointed. I thought he was going to flick. I thought he was going to be able to turn and flick his sword and take a tooth out. Like I really saw it coming. And
Mhm.
but I loved how shocked, like you're absolutely correct in it because I love how shocked Griffith felt when he watched him bite the sword and he was like, are you kidding me right now? Are you biting the goddamn sword in
Mhm.
your mouth? Are you holding on to this end? And then when he dumped him on the ground, I was like, okay, how is this fight going to end? Because if he leans forward, he's going to, and then what do they do? A fist fight. And it had to end in a
I
fist
loved
fight. So
it.
this
I
made
loved
me
it.
happy. It had to end in a fist fight because it needed to be person to person. And him spitting his own blood back out on him. It was
Mhm.
such a gross, basic, right down to your animalistic nature fight. And that's how it had to end. Here is the grossest part right here. He's screaming at him. They're fighting. Da, 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 da. Griffith stops anyone from walking forward. Then he gets down to his level, puts his hand on both sides of the face and says, now you belong to me. And then he goes, what does that mean? From now on, he's one of the Hawks, and he tries to pretend to everybody that this is just about him being one of the Hawks, and by doing that, he kind of takes the sting out of it for Guts, because otherwise Guts could be like, I don't belong to you, I don't belong to anyone. And then bizarrely, she's angry about it because she never got that treatment, and I'm like, can't you see that he's saying something so much worse? Can't you see that he's literally claiming him?
Yeah. Casca, we know you're in love with beautiful femboy, but this man's fucked up.
Can't you see that he just claimed his soul? Ah! And then he goes, that innocent grin, ear to ear, like some kind of little kid.
Oh my
God
god.
damn it. What the hell is
Oh,
he?
I just realized something so sad. Guts, the only social interaction and engagement he's comfortable with is fighting. Who was the last person strong enough to beat Guts in a fight?
When he was taken? Yeah.
Gambino was the last person who was able to beat him in a fight. Was the guy who
Right.
beat him up and looked out
Beat him
over
up
him.
before that. So it's that same
It's that
connection.
same sort of thing of this is now the person he is sworn to.
Yeah.
Oh man.
They're both 15 here. She's 15, he's 15. And now he is apparently just owned. The first time that we see them fight and they come out with this pattern and the fight is good. The fight is good, but what's amazing is the fact that Griffith made Guts go to the back and everyone is like that's too important of a position. Cass is like you can't just leave him back there. That's way too important a position. I don't know what you're trying to prove. The team says that and then Cass is like no, he believes in him. He believes in him that much. He would never just do it to prove something.
Mhm.
So then you're like, well, he does He does actually appreciate him. He does actually think he's amazing. But on the other hand, of course he does. Would he want to take somebody's soul or own somebody if they weren't worthy of him? No.
No, he obviously thinks highly of Guts. Like I said, it's not disingenuous to say this is the first person who has appreciated Guts. I mean, unless we count the random knight who wanted to hire him, but this is someone who's amazed by him. Like, he does want to have him on board specifically. He wants to own him. He wants this to be his person, and he wouldn't want that if he wasn't impressed by him. That is
Exactly. He needs to be impressed by him.
and you talked before about how in the brief shot we saw in the Guardians of Desire arc, how he came across as a narcissist. And that is often the way narcissists value people, is as something worth having, something worth controlling, a valuable tool. That's the love that narcissists often show, is to value
But it's also
someone
that
as a
if
resource.
if the person that you want to have ownership over isn't strong enough or good enough, they're a reflection on you, and you would never let anyone reflect poorly on you.
Mhm.
So a narcissist needs somebody who's going out into the world with a good face because they need to make sure that that person is representing them.
Ugh.
Yeah, so watching him in I like the battle scenes. The battle scenes are so well drawn. Like, I don't have a ton to say them as far as, like, pulling apart military things because it's not the purpose, I think, but the one scene where they're firing cannons and then the whole sky is nothing but smoke and fire is drawn so, so beautifully that it was one of those things that what was that movie with, Slapper? What was that movie with Slapper where his son was in it with him?
Slapper?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, if you slap somebody at the
Oh, Will Smith. You can't just call Will Smith Slapper and expect that to be like communicative.
I said Will Smith afterwards, dude. No, it wasn't The Pursuit of Happiness. It was the one that his son was in with him and they were out in an alien world. They
After Earth?
After Earth, yeah. Anyway, there's a scene in After Earth where he's talking about
Who has watched After Earth? That's crazy.
I did.
Damn, you were like half the audience.
Thank you. Where he learns to control his emotions. And he talks about how he came with so much fear and it was the fear that was killing him. Fear is the killer. It is the mind killer. Because these creatures feed on fear and know where you are. He said, then how did you get over it? And he says, one time I was hit very badly and I was in the water and my blood was leaking out of my body and I was watching my blood in the water and I was thinking, oddly, that's very beautiful. The way that the blood flowers and blooms inside of the water. And it made me think of this page here on 260 and 61 where all these cannons are exploding and there's fireflies within them and there's movement and the smoke creates this high contrast and the way the horses are lifting into the air is almost a dance and the shine of the battle is on everything. And I was like, that's got that same kind of feeling, that idea of being oddly beautiful in its grotesquerie.
I can see that, yeah.
And I feel like this is something, and the reason it's worth pointing out is that I feel like he does that time and again in this piece, that he's really comfortable making gross or grotesque or hateful or painful or whatever it is moments beautiful. And to give you another example, the horrific moment of the essay, everything around them is dark, and he draws the body of both of them beautifully.
Mm.
And then he has the roots coming out from them. And it was a horrific moment.
Yeah.
And he does that time and again, that when something really terrible is happening, he forces you to look at it by drawing it exceptionally
Mm.
and says, look at this grotesquerie, stare at this pain. You are forced to see it, and your eyes are drawn to it. I will use contrast, I will use shape, and you will find yourself looking at it.
Damn. That was straight up so well said.
And so I was looking at it, and after I saw that one image of the cannons exploding, I went back and started to look at all the other moments. And often when it's something that is the worst, it is drawn the best.
Oh.
And I was like, you sick SOB. That is so
Oh
impressive.
my god, I
Well
hadn't
done.
thought. That's such a good observation.
I love that for us, and I hate that for us. And then in the moments where he's just sitting there and he's contemplating life, it's a really simple drawing, and he's just sitting up on the edge and staring out at the stars, and there's no need to look at the beauty, but he's having one of the most beautiful moments. So the nice moments in his life are not highlighted in aesthetic pleasure. They're just done as if they're commonplace.
Do you want to hear something about comic theory that ties into what you're talking about?
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the most difficult things about drawing comics is time, because time in every other media is easier to control. Time in a book is people read. People read at a pace. If you want them to read faster, you break it up. If you want them to read slower, you make it a big block. That's about all you can do, but you just tell people how time progresses. Time in film is very literal. People see as much time as you show them. They can tell when you speed something up or slow it down. They tell when you use montage, when you skip forwards. It's intuitive. Time is one of the most important tools to use, but it's also one of the easiest tools to use in film and animation. In comics, time is incredibly difficult. How long passes in a page? And one of the main ways you can control for time is detail. As a comic artist, if you want people to feel more time passing, you add more detail because it forces you to spend more time in the panel. And the more time you spend in a panel, the more time you perceive.
Hmm.
And I think there's something brilliant about what you're doing, what you're observing there, because the way the human mind works is things that are bad, we remember in far greater detail with far more precision than things that are good. So, what you're noticing
Mm.
there, I love, because we are forced to spend more time in the bad and think about it more and have it be more relevant and weighty in the story because it is so beautiful and so detailed. It exists for longer, it consumes more of our readership, and it sticks with us more. It makes it feel almost as though this story is, as a comic, is being written in first person, because the narrative devices that a comic artist has access to are being used to create a structure that is similar to this being recounted by the protagonist we're following. And that makes me a little bit sad to think about when the author dies, because when the author dies, the story will continue. We will keep reading, but it will be the story being told by his apprentice. And that's fine. That's all you can get. And it means the story of Berserk as we know it ends when we reach the end of this author. That's okay.
Mm.
But there's so many little details to how this author thinks and how this author tells a story with their medium that'll be lost. But isn't it also exciting to see another creative, if they are able to, find their own tools and their own ways to express this medium and to use the knowledge they've gained from studying the medium as it's developed since this author to tell the story in their way? There's something really tragic and really exciting about that, that we're going to reach the point where this story is going to be told by a different hand with a different language.
I love that. That's a good additional observation. I know I'm going to think about it every time I'm being forced to look at these things. So when he is grabbed up by Pippin and he's dragged in, and you're like, please don't do something stupid. And all it is they ask him to drink with them. And for the tiniest little amount of time, he gets to be just a person who's cared for. And I can't decide what her look on her face is, if it's only jealousy yet. It's irrelevant at this time. I think there might be a lot of, like, there's obviously a lot of jealousy, but I'm wondering if there's more to it, and that if she can like him, and I hope so, because it would mean a lot to me. But what was amazing to me is, for the first time ever, he is part of somebody where people are of a similar age. He's making friends, like he's making friends, whether he knows it or not. And he feels cared for. And then she goes and says to him, but there is something about him that's different from us. There are things that simple mercenaries like us hear about and absorb drinking tales, things that he would think of like they were nothing. And I can't really describe it. Ordinary people don't understand Griffith. It might take longer than a lifetime. And then she talks about how his
I
face
thought this
shifts
person was
and
a
how
boy.
he
The
becomes.
the feminine looking one with the ponytail was a boy.
Okay, I don't know, maybe. And they talk all about how their face shifts and the way that they change, and they can look so young and so old. It's like he knew. Judo is in fact a boy. Okay. It's like he knew. And he's just out in the main area having a little bath at the well, completely naked, unabashed. And they don't show his peen, which is a weird choice in a
We
thing.
only get symbolic dicks. We don't get literal dicks.
Yeah, it was weird because I was like, "Oh, we're really only getting symbolic dick, but if it's a real dick, we're gonna put that weird little glowy
Yeah, he
spot
got a
on it."
glowy spot.
Because he says, "Care to join me? The best way to sober up. I'll pass." And then he just puts water on him, and he acts like so innocent, and they have this water fight. You're thinking to yourself, like, if you didn't already know what you knew, you would be like, "Okay, this is a really good tale of these two
Yep.
friends and the friendship that is budding." But if you know what you knew, If you knew what you know, whatever.
If you know.
Now you should be looking at it and saying to yourself, holy god damn, this person is grooming him
And
hard.
as someone said that if I read this like 7 years ago when I was younger, I would fall for him and think Griffith was charming. I think I still find Griffith charming is the issue. And the only reason I have any think about this. Think about if you read this story without seeing the hatred Guts feels and knowing he's been given as a sacrifice and seeing like we know how the story ends and that's how we're able to do this. All of the pieces of this, if we didn't have that, I'd be reading this as like a beautiful story of how Guts finds a family and someone to believe in.
Yep.
And I'd expect Griffith to die as a loving mentor who leaves Guts to want to live a better life. That's what my media analysis reading would tell me. Instead, I'm like, fuck this guy.
He is literally grooming him. And I think he's grooming him sexually. He's grooming him friendship. He's just grooming.
And literally because he is taking care of his hygiene by throwing water on him.
No, but for real, he is. He wants him to be the person he wants him to be. I want you to be clean because you represent me. I want you to think of me as being the very best because you belong to me. And then when we see the bell hat around his neck and he asks what it is,
A Behelit? I think people said it's a Behelit.
I was like, so is there going to be 5 like I thought before? And this is one version of it. Is there going to be 5 of these in the end or more? I don't know, because why does he have a personal one? Is that how we mark somebody who's going to become a finger in the hand of God? I don't know. But watching this, I just felt like I was having to watch a child be groomed. And I know this person isn't a lot older than him, but he's older than him.
He's also far more experienced.
And that's what I was going to say.
He isn't as naive about the world. I think they're only a year apart, people said, but it's about life experience. The Guts is so naive.
I will get my own kingdom. You will fight for my cause because you belong to me. There's something terrifying in that calmness.
It so is. I think I love that when we're talking to Juno is like, yeah, I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. I just know that he's something. We need to see this through. He's going to do something and we want to be part of it. And like that speaks so much about the kind of character Griffith is. And I think more than any, like if his people had said, yeah, we believe that he wants to make the world better and he's incredible, it's not even that. They just say he's incredible and we want to see what happens.
Yeah.
That's such a strong statement from his men.
Okay, but here's the part that is the worst, and I'm really worried about it. We don't get to see the end, so I know that Guts is probably still alive. I'm really worried that the ending is going to include Guts dying because he goes, because you belong to me. You flip the page, there are 3 dove-like birds flying above them that almost look angelic, and then he says, I will decide the place where you die.
Yeah, it's an unsettling statement to make with a level of confidence.
Pardon me now? And so I think that to be true to form, you almost have to wonder if he will decide the place that Guts dies.
Which would have to imply that Griffith wanted him to not die in the stairs dimension.
Exactly. And I think that that's true because I think that in that time that Griffith could have killed him.
Yeah.
I don't think Guts really fought his way out in the way that he won. I think Griffith was like, it's fun to have you alive.
Yeah.
We all know what happens on the stairs. You drew the piece and it's amazing.
Can I say that this is some of my favorite art I've done on the channel? I think the line work here is is probably my best line art I've done on this show.
Yeah, I could see that. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward now into the next battle. And we just end in this scene with Griffith sitting there. Oh, Griffith, you prick. I'm not sure why I wrote that exactly there, but apparently. So that's it. So let's do our closing segments.
Closing segments.
Here we go. So, do I need to do a new YouTube thing? Yeah. I'm going to be more hinged, but really dark. Are you ready? Somebody count me from 5 to 1. 5, 2, 1. Welcome, sufferers. Thank you for joining us for Berserk.
Hey, wait. I have terrible news. They call themselves strugglers. You got to restart.
Count me in.
Count her in, everybody.
2.
7.
Welcome, strugglers, to Berserk, the Happy Edition.
The Happy Edition.
Where we point out the happy things about a Berserk life. Today we joined Guts as he struggled. And I know what you're thinking. That could be any page. And you're right. But he struggled especially bad. And we took you through the journey. If you enjoy that journey, please press subscribe and the like button, because what's not to like about Retribution? That's all.
That was good. That felt poetic.
Thank you. It did, didn't it? It's a poetry
It's a
day
poetry
up in the
day.
lady poetry.
Fiddly D. I get to do the first one because you did the first one last time. I understand that I know he's one of the worst men ever, but
Oh God.
I am putting number one this week.
No.
No, I'm not going to do number one. There is someone I actually liked better who I found more compelling. I am going to say number two is the bastard himself, Griffith. This man is so fucking compelling as a villain. He's so
But
compelling.
now you don't know if you get to pick number one. What if I go and pick
Well,
one?
I'm not saying I get to pick one. I'm saying if I were picking one, I would pick someone else, so I can't put him at one.
There's someone that you would pick before him this
Yes.
week. I'm trying to think who that would be.
You think about it. You think about it. It was close. And what I will say is, God damn, this guy is such an interesting character. He's charming, he's charismatic, but more than anything. So hear me out, right? I've said I'm a Blackbeard fan for anyone who knows One Piece, and Blackbeard is a character who is all about ambition. That is Griffith. I have never seen a character who exudes more energy of conquest in fiction. This is crazy. He is so compellingly written, such a bastard, so good. God, I love reading every page he's on. You go next.
Okay. I'm not picking one because I don't have a one
Okay.
in my head. I'm picking five.
Yep.
And it is Shmoo.
It's Shmoo.
Well, he moved the story along in an interesting way and let me get to see Griffith have a win. I would just pick Mr. Guts getting to kill his person but that's not a person. So Shmoo. Shmoo, it's you.
Good job, Shmoo. My number one is Casca. I find her immediately so interesting. She's got
Oh,
She's got
that for
such
you.
energy to her. I don't know. Like what I said about Griffith, what I realize is I'm even more excited for panels with Casca than Griffith. I am so curious about her arc. It can go so many ways before she has a horrible, horrible end. So I'm putting her at number one. Griffith may end up being my favorite villain of all time. Yes.
I really am enjoying Griffith as a villain. He is terrifying and awful and terrifying.
He's horrible. So good.
Number 4 for me is Pippin. I
Ooh.
won't hear anything
No,
about
my only thought is I probably would have put him at 3.
I might have put him at 3. You know what? Pippin, I'm moving you
Hell
up.
yeah.
Congratulations, Pippin. Cheers all around. That's one of the first people to get to move up.
Okay, let me think about this. Let me think about what's up. Who is a fourth character I don't hate in this section?
The other boy, what's his pickle?
Yeah, Juno, I think, is up there. I'm just trying to think because I don't want to just default to him because he exists.
I'm a little worried about him because his name is too close to like Judas.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm going to do Judo. I really did like him. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't picking him just because he's all that's left. But I think he was really good. I enjoy him. He's cute.
He's a nice boy. I like him. What did we say for Guts? Are we just putting him on the
Yeah, he
the
has a
Guts
protagonist tier list. Last time we gave him a C.
scale? No, we gave him a C plus, and he's a B
I think
plus to
he's a
me
B
because
plus.
he gets all the
B
retribution.
plus is what I was going to do too. He shows a lot of resilience. He's getting up there in the protagonist charts.
Yeah, and he scores 1 for the SA team.
We love it. We got to do our happy moment. Each of us have a sad moment. And because there's no monsters in this section, we each have a favorite drip.
Gambino was a monster.
Monster design, though. We did monster design. They don't have monstrous designs, you know?
Okay, mine is the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
My favorite drip is going to be Emperor Karl Franz, the knight with the funny helmet.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah. What moment brought you joy? Unexpected joy.
Him predator.
Fair. For me, it was Guts thinking about sitting and drinking. And there was such a swirl of emotion in him that I really loved because it felt like there was both regret to him that he felt like he'd done it wrong, that they were all smiling and laughing and he wasn't, but he still enjoyed it and appreciated it, even though he couldn't be part of it the way he felt like he should. And
That's cool.
I think this artist does such a great job at creating expressions that tell you so much story with just a look. And it felt like there was both regret and joy on his face. Like regret that he couldn't do this better, that he couldn't be better at this, but happiness that he got to experience it at all. And that was a really beautiful little shot. And I really loved it.
That's awesome. I love that. Thank you for pointing that out.
All right. What brought you the most pain? What made you struggle? What gave you suffer?
Yeah, that would also be the sexual.
Okay, so you got 2 for 1. Mine would be the same scene that I said for what made me happy because of seeing Guts' regret of not being. Yeah, we both did the same thing. We did the same thing. It was genuinely heartbreaking to look at him be like trying to be happy, but then also being like, I wish I was better at this. I wish I knew how to do this.
I would have also picked the time that he was sitting there happy in the sun with Griffith after the fight with the water because
that was nice.
it felt like he really had such a deep friend and I already know what's coming.
Oh man.
Can I just say, Squishies, I hope to God that we brought a little happiness to your Berserk, and we took a little bit of the edge off, and we came along on the journey together, and so a journey shared is a journey enjoyed.
And I just want to say, Squishies, that Berserk is pushing me to get better at art because I feel like I can't just literally redraw panels because this guy's a master, and having to just be weird and do it how I felt like doing it on instinct led to one of my favorite pieces of art I've done for the channel.
My whole heart loves it. What are we reading to next?
What are we reading to next? Oh, we're leaving prologues and going to chapter numbers now. Chapter 12, because we're leaving prologue.
And now we're doing the Wind of Words, apparently.
Oh, we get to read so much more this time. This is so much longer. I'm excited. I wanted to read more so bad this week.
We were both pretty pissed off this last time that we weren't allowed to read more. I was supposed to tell you because apparently we couldn't do this before and some people tried and now we have fixed it. You can gift people Patreon.
You can give Patreons.
I want to thank all of our Patreons. You kick ass. You are the wind beneath our wings.
And I'm going to thank a special Squishy or crew. Both are in the list that I get. Thank you, Sir Zachary, for your support of the stream. You help us keep the lights on.
Is it really Sir Zachary or did you add the Sir?
Sir Zachary.
Amazing. I'm calling them Sir Zacharias of Zacharonia.
That's a cool kingdom, Zacharonia.
Do you want to hear a little something that is interesting? The picture you drew could be in Witch Hat Atelier.
Interesting fact about the Griffith panel. The Griffith wasn't from a panel. I used several images for reference. None of them are a direct one-for-one for this. This is partially from imagination. All right, everybody. Until next time,
I've been pain-free.
I'm the Painkiller.
Squish on squishies.
It's been lovely talking to you. Why did we need to come up with a new thing? Why'd you think we needed a new bonus? Is that just a thing we do now?
Yes, every one of them gets a thing that is in line with the
All
manga.
right.
The manga deserved
All
it.
right.
The manga deserved
All
it.
right, manga deserves it. God, I really like this picture. I think I killed it today.
I'm in love with that picture. You've done a beautiful Witch Hat Atelier picture. I even feel like his shoes are flying.
Okay, I don't know what that means. Bye, everybody. Thanks for being here.